Welcome to another video. So in this video we are going to see how we are going to connect a PHP application with a database. So in this lesson, as we discussed during the theory lesson, so we are going to use PHP data objects to connect our PHP application with a database. So let's go to the activity. So this is very simple activity. So we have used this activity for activity in several lessons now, and this one also we are going to use the same activity. So in this one we are having a small form like this, and then we are going to submit the information to this register.php page, and after that we are going to display this information back to the user like this. And then we are going to use PDO approach, and we are going to save this data into this database table. So after that so we are going to show a message to the user that successfully saved, and then we are going to have a view.php file to view the already saved information, and also we are going to display two options, edit and delete there. So once once you click on edit, so we can edit this information, and once you click on delete, so we can delete this information. So that is what they are in this activity. So let's start on this one. So first we need to have this HTML form. So first we will create a PHP project. So then quickly we will so this is activity 9. So quickly we will create that HTML page. So I'm going to use a table structure here. So we can have input type text. So this will be first name, okay, like this. You can have last name, username and password. So this is last name, and this will be username. Okay, we need to move this one next. So we need to add the input field after the label, so therefore I will change it like this. And this will be the password. So this will be password, and text is again password. Okay, first name, last name, username and password. And here we need to have the submit button. And value is register. Okay, we can run this one now. So this will be the form. We didn't add the label, so we will add these labels as well. So this is first name, and this will be last name, and this is username, and this will be the password. So we forgot to add this form tag, so I will add the form tag before this table tag. Form, and we need to add action. So here action is register.php and method is post. So we need to close this form tag as well. So after the table, so I'm going to close this form tag and we will format this little bit. Okay, now if I run this one, so you can see this is my form now. So now I'm going to submit this information to this register.php file. So I need to create a register.php file here. So this will be so I'm going to create a PHP web page called register. So now in this case, first we need to get these values. So I will have so first we need to check whether these are set. Okay, so if so we are going to check. So if so we are going to use isEt function, and we are going to check whether the first one is first name, and then last name, first name, last name, username, and password. So whether these are set, first we are going to validate this user input. Validate this user input, and then we are going to check whether so we are going to we are going to get these values. So we will have dollar first name here as a variable, and we are going to save this value here. Likewise we need to have last name, and username, and password. And here again it should be last name, and this will be username, and this will be password. But we discussed that we are not going to save a plain text password, because accidentally if we access this variable, so then we can see the user's password. Therefore, as a good practice, so we are going to encrypt it before saving to a local variable. So in PHP, so we are having this password hash function. So we can use this password hash function. So in this case we need to pass the text that we need to get the hash. Okay, so the first parameter is this, and then we need to select algorithm, which algorithm we are going to use when you are going to generate this hash value. So so we will have password bycrypt. So we are going to use password bycrypt. So now we generated the hash value. So let's see how we are going to display this information to the users. So according to our activity, so we need to display those information like this. So we will display it here. So I will use h2 tag here. Okay, so first name, and we need to display first name here. Okay, like this we need to display all the information. first name, last name, username and password. Password. So let's run this one. Okay, you can see that we are getting the information, the user input like this. So now we will move to the next part. So in next part we need to create a DB connector class. So during the theory class, so we discussed how to create a DB connector class because we are going to use a PDO approach here to connect our PHP application to the database. So this is the database table. So first we will create this table. So I'm going to the services and under databases, so MySQL. So we are going to create a database called Activity09. Okay, then we will connect this Activity09 database. Okay, this is Activity09 database. So we don't have any tables here, so we are going to execute this command and we are going to create this table. Okay, so this successfully executed, so that means we created the table. So this is our table. Okay, so now we are going to remove these parts because we don't need this part. So now first we are going to create a class. So PHP file, and this will be DB connector. So first we will have a namespace for this one. And before that I will organize my code a little bit. So I will create a folder called classes. So I'm going to put my all classes into this folder, and I will move this one into classes. Okay, and so namespace I will name it as classes. So now I'm going to create my class called DB connector. Okay, so in this one I'm having variables like host. So host, in this case my host is localhost, so I will use the value localhost. So we will make these as private, and so private we will have DB name, database name. So in my case the database name is Activity9. So here you can see my database name is Activity9. And then next one will be DB user. So in this case DB user is test user, not text, it should be test. So likewise we will have DB password as well. Okay, so these are the required variables or required values in when you are going to create the DB connector. So now we will create a public function named get connection. So when you are going to create a connection by using PDO approach, the first thing we need to have is a data source name, DSN. So we can construct DSN by adding this information. First the database MySQL, and then we are going to add the host. So we are going to add the host, and host equal, in this case the host will be $this host, and we are going to have the database name, and this will be DB name. Okay, like this we can construct our DSN. Okay, and then so we are going to use a try catch here, because now we are going to connect our database. When we are going to create a connection here with the database, so in this case we can get some exceptions, so therefore we are going to use a try catch. But in PDO environment, so we are having a specific class called PDO exceptions, so we are going to use this PDO exception here. Since we are going to use this PDO exception, so first we need to use this PDO exception class like this. So then we can modify uh, this into, so we will change this into die, because we discussed that if die is used, so then we are going to exit if any issues happen. So normally in this kind of codes, if the database connection is not there, so then sometimes we cannot work with the other pages, so therefore we need to stop that place. So like by using die, so we can stop because it's like exit, and then we will get a user friendly message here by using get message method to display as a message. So we will have some additional text like this. Okay, like this we will have some additional text. So now we are going to connect our so we are going to create the connection. So first we will create a variable called $con equal new PDO. So we are going to use the PDO class here, so therefore we need to use this class as well. So I will use PDO class in this one like this. So then we can have new PDO object. So when you are creating the PDO object, we need to pass first the data source name, and then we need to pass the database user, DB user, and then we need to pass DB password. So then we can create the connection, and after that we are going to return this connection. Okay, like this we can create this DB connector class. So this is very easy. So it's very much similar to the way that we created the DB connector class during our Java application development. So this is also like that. So now we have get connection. So now we will go to the register page, and so at the beginning of this page, so now I'm going to add some so I need to add some classes, because this DB connector class is an external one, so we need to add it. So therefore first one is so we need to tell where is this file is. So I will use require, and so I will go to classes and dbconnector.php. so now I added this class into my script. So now I can use this classes DB connector class like this. So now the same place I'm going to create a DB connector object called dbcon, and it's a new DB connector object. Okay, so now so after getting these values, so now I'm going to create a connection with the database. So I will use try catch, because there can be some exceptions from the database side. So in this case also I'm going to use this PDO exception, and again so I'm going to use die method here. So I will use echo, and I'm going to use get message method here. Okay, now first I need to have a connection, so I can use this dbcon, and I can call to this get connection method. I can get a connection. So after that I need to have a query, because this is the steps that we follow during our Java application development as well. So we need to have a query. So here it should be an insert query, insert into user. So we have first name, last name, username and password, and values. So we are going to use parameterized queries here, so therefore we will add some placeholders like this. Okay, now the query is ready. So now we are going to create our prepared statement object $pst equal $con. So we will use prepare. In PHP, the prepared statement, to create a prepared statement we are in a method called prepare, and we are going to pass the query here. So after that we need to set values for these placeholders. So we can use $pstmt, and we can use bind values. So we discussed that we are in bind value, bind params. So in this case we are going to use bind value. Index is going to start from 1 here, and then we are going to bind this first name, and second, third, fourth. So this will be last name, and this will be username, and this will be password. So now we are going to execute this one. So we are having a method called execute. So we can so after setting the values we can execute this query. So then we are going to use a result set here. So no, so in this insert query, so therefore we are going to check whether we have did some modifications to the database or not. So we can check it by using this number of rows affected one. So here we will use if condition, and we will see so we will use row count, and if the row count is greater than 0, so this is the row count. If the row count is greater than 0, so that means so we have done some changes. So we are going to display a message to the users, successfully registered. Successfully registered message. Okay, we are having some issues here. Okay, so this one. So else we are going to display a error message to the user. Error, try again, something like that. So now we will run our project. Okay, successfully registered. So we will go to our database and we will see whether these values okay, so these are the values. So now we will add few data to this database. Okay, now two data points are there, so we will add one more here. Okay, now we are having three values. so 3 users in our uh, like this we will have 3 users in this database. So now we will move to the next one. So now we have saved it, successfully saved data occurred, so we display this message. So we added few data into this into the database through this interface. So now we need to implement this view.php one. So the view.php is something like that. We have a number, first name, last name, and 2 actions. So now we are going to design that one. So we will create a separate PHP file, PHP web file here. So that will be view.php. So in this case we need to have a table, so therefore so I will use this HTML palette and I'm going to add a table here. So in this case we need to have so we will set as 6 rows and columns. So we need only 4 columns. So according to this activity, you can see that we need only 4 columns: number, first name, last name, and actions. And body is 1, so that's okay. So we added it like this. So here the table headers, so first one is number and second one is first name, last name, first name, last name, and here action. Okay, so now these ones are not needed because we are going to iterate one part to design that table. So in this case, so this is the part that we are going to iterate. So now again we need to add this database class. So therefore first I'm going to use this require, and I'm going to use classes and db connector, and I'm going to use classes db connector class, and I'm going to so I'm going to create dbcon object here. So dbcon object, so that will be db connector, new db connector object, so like this. So now we will come to here. So this is where we are going to iterate. So therefore we will use php tag here. So now in this case we are going to get the values from the database. So we are going to use a select query. So in this activity also we are going to follow that standard steps, so that we already teach you, so that we already discussed these steps. So we are going to use these steps again. So in this case we need to have first we will have a try catch block, and we are going to handle this PDO exceptions here, and we will get some user friendly message by using get message. So again, first we are going to create the connection here, and we are going to use this dbeacon object, and I'm going to call this get connection method. Then I can get the connection. So after that I need to have a query. So in this case the query will be select, and we need to get all information, so therefore select all from user. Okay, now we are going to create the prepared statement pstmt and equal $con, and we are going to call to this prepare method by passing the query. So after that we don't need to set any values here, because this query we don't have any kind of parameters, so therefore we are not going to set any values. We are going to execute this one, $pstmt execute. So after executing, so we are going to collect the data into a result set object. So in this case so we are going to use fetch okay, not $con, so this should be $pstmt. Okay, so we are going to fetch values. In this case we are going to use fetch all, and we need to tell how we are going to fetch these values. So we have discussed several fetching styles. So in this case we are going to use this PDO objects one. So therefore so we will use fetch obj object one like this. Okay, now we are going to use so we are going to use this part inside a for loop. So now we will have we are going to have a for loop here for each one. So this dollar $rs as dollar user. Okay, so inside here, so we are going to have this table row like this, and now we will break the PHP statement here, and after that again we will start it here. So now in the first one so we need to display a numeric value. So we discussed that we are not going to use the ID column value which is available in the database, because it's not going to work in every time, and also it's not a good practice because this ID we are going to use to handle the relationships between database tables. So therefore this value should not be displayed to the user. So instead of that we can have our own variable called $I here, and this will be 0 in the very first case. No, we will make it 1, so then we can directly use it here. So now we are going to display this $1 first name, last name, and here actions. Okay, so okay, so this should be I. And this case we are going to use this $user, and we are going to use first name in this case. And same way, so we are going to display last name here. And according to our activity, so we are having two buttons. One is edit and another one is delete. So we will make those buttons as well. Okay, and edit, so we are going to add a hyperlink here. href equal to edit.php, this case we need to pass the specific record as well. So therefore we are going to use a query string here, id equal, and we are going to add the id in this case. And we are going to get the id like this. Okay, and the same id we are going to use with the delete one as well. So here, so I'm going to use the same hyperlink here, like this, but this case it's not edit, so it should be delete. Okay, like this. So now we will run this file. Okay, now we can see, okay, id we didn't increase the id value, so we need to do that part, because we have defined I here like this, so we need to increase this I by 1 plus plus. So now we will run it. So now you can see 1 2 3, and we can see the first name and last name, and also actions. You can see that here it's again sending the id of this user to the next page. So now this part is also okay. So now we need to develop this edit part. So we are going to have the edit. So now I will create another file called edit.php. So in this case I'm going to use the same form that I have used in registration one, but here I'm not going to allow users to change this username one. So I'm going to ask user to edit only the first name and last name. So therefore I'm going to use only first name and last name here in the edit page. So first I will go to index.php, and I'm going to copy this table. Okay, first name, last name. So now in this case, so we are going to submit the value again back to the same page. So in the so we can do it by using dollar server. So dollar server, and we can use PHP. So we can use PHP self as the value, then we can send back to the same one, and then we are going to close this PHP part here like this, and method will be paused, so no difference in that one. So now in this case this page need to handle two request. One is the post request, and another one is a normal get request without having any query string parameters. Okay, so therefore I'm going to use a if condition here. So I will use dollar $server, and we are going to check the request method here. Request method. So we are going to check whether it's equal to post, whether the request method is post. So if the request method is post, so then actually we need to submit, or we need to update the database. That means we need to again we need to add this information to the database. So that means it's a kind of an update function. So therefore we are going to update it. So now if the request is post, so that means we are getting the values from this one. So in this case uh, so we will get information like first name and last name, and other than that we need to have the user ID as well. So in this one, so we are going to use the hidden field approach to save the user ID. So therefore this case, so we can have another ID column here, but so now we will add the else part here. So if the request method is not post, that means we need to display this form in this case. Okay, now we need to get first we need to get the ID of this user, because from the view.php file, so we are passing this ID. So we need to first get this one. So we will make this as ID equal, so $get, and in this case it should be ID. So now we are going to add this ID here. Input type, so this should be a hidden one, and name equal to ID. Okay, like this. And we need to have a value as well, and in all these cases we need to have a value, because this edit one. So now again we need to connect our application to the database in this case, because we need to get the information about this specific user, and then we need to feed this information to this form. So now we are going to create a connection here. $dbcon and get connection. Okay, in this okay, so in this page actually we didn't add this db connector. So first we need to add the file, so that is they are in classes. Okay, so we are going to use this classes and db connector. After that we can use this db connector classes. Okay, we can use this db connector class. So then we are going to create a dbcon object by creating new db connector object. Okay, now in this case we can get connection, and we will use a try catch, because if any error occurred, so then we will use PDO exception here, and this one get message. So now we will add this connection part inside this try catch. So after creating the connection, so we need to have the query. So the query is this one, it's a select one, but we are having a specific value now, so therefore select or from user where id equal to some value. So now the query is okay. So now we are going to create the prepared statement, p stmt equal $con prepare, and we can pass the query and we can prepare it. So after that we are having one placeholder here, so therefore we need to bind some values. So we are going to bind, so we are going to bind value here. This index is starting from C1, and then value we here the value is $id. So now we are going to execute this one. Okay, so we are going to execute it. So once we execute, so we can check whether this is successfully executed by using if condition. If this $pstmt row count is greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, so we need to check whether it's greater than 0. Okay, so if it is greater than 0, so then we are going to display a message by telling that this edit is successful, and we are going to move this user to the view.php. So in this case we can use header. So we will put index.php like this. Okay, now we need to display this okay, this is select query, so therefore I'm going to remove that part. So this is select query, so therefore here I'm going to use result set and using pstmt. In this case I need only one row, so therefore I'm not going to use a fetch all, so I'm going to use fetch. And inside this method we need to tell how we need this information. So here we are using PDO fetch object. Okay, now so we need to fill these values. So id, so we need to fill this id, and here again we are going to fill the first name first name, and in this case the last name. Last name. So in this case we are going to change this button. Actually we didn't add a button here, so we need to add a button as well. So I will add a button because we need to submit these values. So I will add this button. So this is submit button. So we'll make it update. Okay, now we will run this one. So we will go to view and we will view first. So now we will click edit. Okay, we are having an issue here. So we will edit. Okay, so we cannot access it like this because we are asking to get it as object. So in this case we need to follow this object way. So then we need to use $rs and then arrow and first name, and here also $rs arrow last name, and here also it should be $rs arrow id. So now they will run it again. So now we'll click on edit. Okay, now we are getting test user as values. So now we need to update. So that means once user click on this update, so that means we need to update this information. So we will implement that part now. So once user click update button, so then we are actually in here if part, because we are having this okay, not this one, edit one. So in the edit so we are having this if the request method is equal to post path. Okay, here. So now again we are going to get three values. One is this id. So we are going to get by using post method. Likewise we are going to get username, first name and last name. And last name like this. So now again we are going to connect with the database. So that means again we are going to search try catch block here. So we are going to use PDO exception, and we will get a very meaningful message here by using get message method. So now again I'm going to create a connection by using this dbcon object. So then we can have the query. So here we are going to update the database. So therefore update user set. So we are going to update. So update user and set first name equal to value and last name equal to value, where id equal to value. Okay, so this is the query. So once we create the query, so then we can use this $con prepare method to create the prepare statement object, and after that we can set values, because in this one we have some placeholders. So we are going to use this bind value method, and the first one is actually the first name. So the second index is last name and third index is id. Okay, the third index so is id. So after that we are going to execute this one, pstmt execute. So once you click once you executed this one, so then since this is update query, so again we can check whether this update happened by checking the number of rows affected. So in this case, so we are going to use if condition, if $pstmt row count. We can use row count. If the row count is greater than 0, so that means actually this value change. So in this case we are going to redirect this user. So we are going to use a header function, and we are going to move this user into this view dot php Okay, so now we will see how this application is working, how this edit is working. So I'm going to run it, so I will get the values like this. So now I'm going to edit this one, so we will make this as edited and update. Okay, so I'm having a mistake here, column name. So we will go to the query. So we have a mistake in the query, the edit one. Okay, so spelling mistake. So I'm going to resend these values. Okay, now you can see test edited, so it was now edited. So now let's see how we are going to implement this delete one. It's very simple. So the same steps we need to follow that we followed in the update one. So therefore I'm going to copy this part. Okay, after this I'm going to copy, and now I'm going to create another file called delete. And here also so I need to include my PHP DB class. So therefore I'm going to use require and classes DB connector PHP. So after adding this class file, so then I can use this use this classes DB connector class. So in this case also I'm going to create a dbcon object, new db connector. Okay, now in here I'm going to put that code, and I need to get this ID here. So ID equal dollar get ID. Okay, so I got the ID now. So now this is not update, so I'm going to delete some user here. So therefore the query is delete from user where ID equal to some value. Now after that I'm going to create the prepared statement, and in this case we have only one value to bind, so that is ID, and this will be the first. And then I'm going to run it, and then I'm going to execute it, and if the number of rows affected is greater than 0, so then I'm going to move this user again to the view.php file. So let's run this one and see how it's going to work now. So I'll click delete. Okay, now I delete it. So that is how it's going to work. So now I think I completed all these steps. So the last one is the delete one, so delete users. Okay, that's all about this activity. So I will upload this activity to the VLE as well, the source code, so then you can also go through it, and this will be really helpful when you are going to do the coming assignment. So you will get a practical assignments as the next assignment. So this will be a web application which actually going to work with the databases. So therefore if you try this activity several times, then you can get very good idea about how we are going to connect the application with the database, and how we are going to use these PDO objects to do some SQL operations, that means to get some information from the database side. Thank you.